So we're going to do a simple little sequence, which is going to work along 3 parts of the spine, where the spine meets other structures in the body, kind of junction points where the body can do lots of movements in lots of planes of orientation, and where our tissues really allow that, but is also deeply weaved through by nerve networks, because that allows the brain, the nervous system, to know what's going on, to adjust, to really get that information and respond to that information. But those are also 3 parts of the body where often we hold lots of tension, and so the tissue is no longer quite so mobile, quite so adaptive and quite so healthy. And that also means that the nervous feedback that is happening between that part of the body and the nervous system and back to that part of the body isn't quite, that flow of information isn't quite so fluid anymore, and basically doesn't help the body to adapt to the changes circumstances anymore. And this can be problematic because it means that we might be slightly injuring ourselves. We might be creating patterns of tension without knowing it, because we can't really sense in that area very well anymore. And it also just generally means that a part of our body is a little bit dormant. So the movement is aimed at helping your brain create a more detailed map of that area, which will help your movements be more free, but also more efficient, more responsive to what's happening, to keep that part of the body healthy, safe, and also greatly helps with improving sensations of pain. And then last but not least, it's a fantastic way of arriving in the body, grounding in your own body. There's a beautiful concept which is called grounded sensitivity. I unfortunately forget whom it comes from, but it's the idea of having this capacity to feel, but from within, having this capacity to feel, and at the same time really have a sense of center and responsibility for what we feel, as in ability to respond. And so this could be done sitting down, this could be done standing up. If you're sitting down, please make sure that you are comfortable. I am sitting in this way because it is comfortable for me and it makes my transition onto the belly easier, but you could be sitting in any way that you want with any support. So the 3 parts of the body that we'll be working on are the part where the spine joins with the skull. And this is the sphenoid bone, which is located a few centimeters behind kind of like that third eye point, so between the eyebrows. It's behind the breastbone. And so the breastbone joins through the collarbones to the arms, and then through the ribs at the back with the spine. So it really kind of allows all of those coordination points, or all those points, to coordinate with one another. And then we'll work with the sacrum, which is the bone at the back of your pelvis, which joins the spine with the pelvis, and thus helps movements coming from the legs to rise up fluidly through the torso, and then same from the torso down to the legs. That's what allows us to not be walking like a robot or the Queen's Guard, but rather fluidly absorbing shock. This is actually true at all 3 points, and that's why those points can actually move in various planes of orientation, and we'll be using this movement, so a lying shape of 8, not a standing up one, but a lying one. And not every part of the body can move like that, but those 3 parts can really move forwards, backwards, sideways, and up and down. And this is going to be really, really good to loosen up the tissues, send gentle little stimulation to the tiny nerves, cells and vessels that are running through the tissue there, helping the brain to have stimulation, have information coming from that area to create a finer map. So let's find a comfortable way to sit. I'm going to close my eyes, but this is optional. Closing the eyes helps me to kind of really feel what's happening, where I'm moving a little bit more, but you could just let your eyes kind of daze away ahead of you. And let's find a shape of 8 in one direction first. And it really is just that part between your eyebrows, a few centimeters inwards, that is moving in this little 8 shape. And really, it doesn't have to be a big one. You could try making it a little smaller or a little bigger. Now, for all of us, teeth grinders, jaw clenchers, you might hear sounds that are reminiscent to little bubbles of air popping. And that's you gently stimulating, elongating the tissues. That's the tissues getting rid of little pockets of gas and spreading the ground substance, the blood through the tissue. And so the ground substance is what's in between the fibers of fascia, of connective tissue. Good. Do this movement now a few times in the other direction. And you might notice, wow, there's one direction that's so much easier and so much more fluid and pleasant. Cool. You've just learned something. You've learned that not only you have a dominant side, but you have a dominant direction of movement. Now, especially teeth grinders and jaw clenchers, try to let the tongue soften between your lower teeth and that lower jaw. Relax down a bit, soften down. Oh, and now take a little moment in the middle. Just allow yourself to feel any differences, however subtle. So in my body, it feels like my head is back above my shoulders, floating easily. My neck is a little freer. Back of my eyes and kind of a brain feels a little bit more at ease. Good, let's do the same thing with the breastbone. So a few centimeters behind the breastbone, we're moving in a little flat shape of 8, or a lying shape of 8. And of course you see my upper chest, my shoulders move, my head a little bit, but it's really this part right here at the center of the chest that's moving. And that's a totally different feeling. It's often a lot of tension we have is like really, really deep inside the chest. And so as you do this, you might be like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, I feel all these things. I feel the tissue fibers kind of being gently wrung and stretched and moved a few times in the other direction. It's a bit like you're dancing, right? Somebody put on a song you like and you're like, da, 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 da. You're allowed to enjoy it in that way. Good, so we're going to keep it pretty short, but when you do this at home, do it as long as you want. There might be some parts where you're like, oh, I wish I could just keep going, or in some direction. So a moment of stillness, again, to just feel, oh, okay, wow, that's the effect it has. That's how I feel afterwards. And then let's come onto the belly. A simple way to support a head would be to use the hands, but you could obviously have anything at the ready to play that role if you'd rather not use your arms. And then let's find that little shape of 8 now with the back of the pelvis, that sacrum area. So it's like you're dancing a samba or swimming. Of course, you feel the legs all the way to the feet moving. And really, we're moving from that sacrum area. A few times in the other direction now. You might notice, wow, it's the same direction at every single point. That's slightly trickier. Or it might actually be different every single time because of kind of postural habits you have. The way that the tissue has learned to be strong in certain parts and really, really loose in others. So again, interesting stuff you're learning about your body now. Interesting stuff you can try and gently rebalance by conscious movements. And then again, a moment of stillness. How does that entire central part of your body, around the whole of your spine, from where it meets up with the skull, through that center of the chest, all the way through the middle of the belly, all the way to the pelvis, deep inside the pelvis. How does it feel? Mine feels a little buzzy, fizzy, really like looser and more fluid, like it's like a shaft that communicates up and down. So it's a very simple practice, and you can kind of do it pretty much anywhere. You can also do it sitting at a desk. Yeah, it's a nice little thing to do actually when you're sitting at a desk a few times for a few seconds, just to keep everything like loose, happy, moving, and also gently floating on top of one another. Enjoy this, make it your own. You could go from top to bottom, bottom to top. You can spend as long as you want on each one of those parts and their directions. It's up to you now.